Guinness, nectar of the gods or liquid tar?
I'd say more of the former, more of nectar of the gods. Although I would say I'm not a huge Guinness drinker. I do like Irish stout, but being like living in Cork, we have, for example, Beamish and Murphy's here, which is kind of more local beers. And when I have a stout, I will tend to go for one of them as opposed to a Guinness. But no, I don't dislike Guinness. I like stouts in general. Yeah, yourself?
Oh, I'll have a Jack Daniels, please. Hello and welcome to Skylines Talk, the new chat show for Cities Skylines, where we'll go behind the CIMS and meet some of the brightest, most creative minds in the Cities Skylines community. Find out what makes them tick and maybe even learn a tip or two. Who am I? I'm Bon B, and you are very, very welcome.
Come here now, girl.
Welcome and thank you for taking time to come on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed your previous Skyline Talks shows, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Do I call you Antonio or is there something else that you prefer?
No, Antonio is absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Normally this is where I ask people where they got their creator's name from. In your case, is there any reason why you don't have one?
Not really. No, not a reason. Like I do have like a nickname or a username in Steam and that I use in other kind of platforms, which is Voquepasa21, but it's not a great name really. And I suppose when I kind of joined the community of City Skylines, I joined through the Facebook group, and you just join there with your own name for your Facebook account. So I never really bothered or thought about kind of having a creator's name or anything, so I stuck with it. So my name is fine. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So can you tell me a little bit about your personal background, where you're from, and what you do when you're away from the game?
Right. So I'm from Spain, from the south of Spain, from the province of Cadiz, but I've lived in Ireland, in Cork, for over 9 years now. Here I do work for a big company, have a boring job with the company, which I do part-time. And then when I'm not playing Cities Skylines, I like playing music, and also I like doing a bit of painting. I do watercolor paintings and things like that. And I suppose I also spend time with my wife, and has to be done. So yeah, that kind of thing.
You suppose you spend time with her, yeah.
Well, no, I don't suppose. I do spend time with it, and I love the time I spend with her.
Of course, yes. Let's not play her this tape. So how come a Spaniard is living in the south of Ireland?
So, I've mentioned that I play music. I actually play Irish traditional music, so which is very unusual in the south of Spain, but I got into it when I was about 18 or 19, so many years ago already. And one thing kind of led to the other one, and I started coming to Ireland for holidays to play music and to meet musicians here and things like that. And then eventually I decided to move to Cork because I really liked the city and the music scene was great, and I had some friends who used to come and play music with, or they would visit me in Spain. So yeah, it just made sense at the right time. I moved here 9 years ago. I'm still here, but the music is kind of the main reason I came here. I mean, once you're here, life happens, and I'm still here.
So having experienced of both, what would you say are the main differences between Spain and Ireland, both socially and geographically?
Interesting question. Very different countries, I suppose. Socially, I suppose Spain or Spanish people, we have this reputation of being very outspoken and kind of liking the outdoors life, especially in the south of Spain. But that kind of goes with the weather, to be honest, which, it's fairly evident and very obvious that the weather is very different where I'm from than here in rainy Cork.
Oh yeah.
But it really does shape the people and the way that people interact with each other and the kind of the people go around their daily lives and all that, definitely. Geographically, very different as well. I'd say Spain is a very diverse country where if you go from the north to the south, you find completely different weather, big mountains in the middle, big mountains in the south where I'm from as well. Lot of coast and beach. Ireland, it's I would say more uniform. You know, it's the stereotypical green everywhere, all the shades of green, and it's very flat also compared to where I'm from. And I do miss having proper mountains sometimes, but it's absolutely beautiful here too, where I live in Cork. So I don't complain really.
Yeah, what they call mountains in Ireland. I used to live in Northern Ireland for a short while, and yeah, the Mourne Mountains are basically just glorious hills, really.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So, what led you into playing City Skylines?
Well, I've been into city building games for years, really. I used to play a lot of SimCity 4, and even before that, I remember playing other city builders back in the day, such as like Caesar 3. I just love that one. But now I'd say probably SimCity 4 was a game that I spent a lot of time with, and I really, really enjoyed it, the whole city building side of it. And when Cities Skylines came out, I was pretty much following like its development. I knew it was coming out, and I was very much looking forward to it. And I pretty much bought it right after release, I'd say. Yeah, especially once I saw that it was going to be very open to modding and everything. And once I saw the Steam Workshop, everything that was already popping up there very shortly after the game was released, yeah, it's gonna be something special.
So you're currently getting an awful lot of notice for your city build of Cork. What was the intention when you started out, and did you have any specific challenges in mind?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Cork build, I suppose, is getting a bit of attention. The intention really, it was just, I suppose it's something that most people who play City Skylines at some point, or at least many of us, I'm sure we have kind of fantasized about building the city we live in the game. And that was the intention really. I would say that this is actually the second attempt that I've done at it, because the map, the terrain map was in Steam, and I remember doing a first attempt, I don't know, like a year and a half ago or sometime last year, the beginning of last year. I didn't go very well. I think at the time we didn't have all the mods that we have now that kind of give me all the freedom to kind of build in pure sandbox mode. So that was a challenge the first time I did it. However, the second time around, I saw a lot of new assets and new buildings had been released since the first attempt, and also a good bunch of modes that were a bit of game changers and everything, and I kind of had the feeling, yeah, I should try this again, because I think I'm going to be able to get it right this time.
So it actually astounds me how close to real life some of the screenshots are. Are you working from photos or Google Earth or something else?
Yes, Google Earth constantly. I pretty much, whenever I'm building, I always have a Google Earth open side by side and constantly referring to it. Photos sometimes, or sometimes if I'm doing detailing work, I kind of go to Google Street View, go to kind of street level. Well, a great advantage is living in the city. So when I'm working, when I'm go for a walk, when I'm driving around, I'm always kind of taking mental notes. And you know, if I'm building the city center, and then we'll go for a walk there, and then sometimes my wife working with me, and she's like, "Are you just thinking of your game, or you while working around?" Yeah, I'm taking mental notes. I have to do it. Yeah, it's great. And it's great fun to sometimes you walk around and say, I really have those props exactly like that. I have to decorate that street, and it's great fun. But yeah, the main tool really for me is Google Earth all the time.
Yeah. So what's the actual process you use? If you were to just basically start right now on a new section, how would you go about doing that, and how long would each section take to complete?
So I don't know if I actually have a process. I think I'm very chaotic and very slow when I build. That's probably why it's taking me so long. But obviously, first of all, laying the roads as accurate as I can, which is a bit tricky because I don't actually use any overlay.
All right. That's surprising.
I know there are some overlay mods, but I also noticed that the scale wasn't going to be actual 1-to-1. So I thought that an overlay probably wouldn't work in the end, so I don't know. It's probably taking even longer than it should the way I'm doing it, but it just works for me. So I kind of literally looking up by side my map and the Google Earth map and trying to get it as close as I can. As I said, like being kind of familiar with the places you're building and everything helps a lot as well. Then how long this section take? It really depends. For example, all the city center area, which is Morrison's Island and everything, each block there took a long time because I really wanted to put the right building in the right place, so everything was carefully and individually selected and put there. And those took an insane amount of time. I remember at some point going like, this is crazy, I'm not gonna be able to finish this ever. But then, like, I have to say that, for example, some of the suburban areas, I've laid the roads down, I have like a building theme, and I let things spawn, and I don't pay much attention to them because at the moment they're mostly backdrop. Then I'll go and do like key areas of it, like intersections, or if there's kind of a feature in some place, or do a bit of quick decoration with trees and things like that. But where I've spent the most of the time, sometimes I could spend like a whole gaming session of a few hours just building 1 or 2 blocks insanely slow, really.
Oh, wow. What have been the major challenges and hurdles during the city build?
A few of them, I suppose. The first one that I probably will mention is the river and the quays and the water. You know, Cork, from, I'm sure you've seen the screenshots. It's surrounded by water, basically. The city center is an island that the River Lee kind of splits into 2 and then goes into the sea. So as you know yourself, dealing with water levels in the game can be tricky. So I remember actually going through times where, you know, I couldn't get the right level for the water. It will flood, or it will flow too low, it wouldn't flow properly. So that really was quite challenging. I remember when I finally got it right, I was like, right, I'm never touching the water or the keys again. That's it. That's things like that, you know.
There's something I hadn't even considered, that you probably would want to do the entire riverfront first to be able to then get on, rather than do some riverfront, then put some more keys down later and completely disrupt the river flow.
Absolutely, you're right. Once I started doing the riverfront and the keys and everything, that was a whole project on itself, and I did the whole thing even from areas that I wasn't going to build for the first things, you know, for the near future, that will take me a while to get to them. The keys had to be done properly, and that's it, and then you can kind of forget about them and move on. I'd say also another tricky part of the Cork build is dealing with slopes and hills. Cork is a pretty hilly city, there's some big hills on it and everything. It's flat around the river, obviously, but then there's plenty of hills everywhere. It's quite challenging, especially when sometimes you're dealing with bridges and streets and roads that kind of intersect at different levels. I found that somehow, as we kind of tend to build from above, it's kind of hard to judge how steep a hill actually is, and then you think you're doing it right, and then you go down to street level and then everything looks wrong, everything is way too high usually, or too steep. That's been quite challenging as well, but it pays off. Well, it's part of the city, you know, the hills and the views and all that, so I really want to get it right. What I learned is most of the time you don't need the hills, or the slopes don't have to be as steep as you think. There's usually gentle hills work better.
So, of the entire city that you've done so far, which part are you most proud of and why?
I would say the whole kind of city center, which is Morrison's Island, you know, the whole city center of Cork. Once I finally managed to put all the blocks together and, you know, all the buildings were there, that's when I felt like, wow, it actually looks much better than I ever anticipated. So that made me really proud. And within the city center, I would say the main street of Cork, which is St. Patrick's Street and Grand Parade, I'm very happy with the way they turned up. I got some help from Sven Berlin, you know, from the
Sven,
community.
Legend,
He's a legend. He's been very helpful, and he did for me the streetlights of Cork, which are it's like a unique design they did here years ago. They're pretty chunky streetlights and kind of very specific shapes, and I'm very proud and very happy to have them, because without them, I remember it just didn't look right. It looked like it was empty. So that really was a great great moment when I was able to put them in the game. Then I would say also the whole port area, the port of Cork, as it comes into the city, I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out. You know, it's very industrial part, and I think I got the right look. I really like all that area. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way that because obviously had a look at some of your screenshots and compared it to Google Earth, and the way you've created the site, the word Cork, where it actually says in real life Port of Cork. But obviously you're limited in what you can do, and I think you've actually managed to keep the feel just about right there.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's an example. Sometimes you kind of have to take like artistic license, really, where like it's impossible. Like considering I don't do any 3D modeling or anything, so I'm limited by the buildings and assets we have in the workshop, which are loads and they're great. And of course, you know, things like this collaboration with Sven, and I'm hoping to have 1 or 2 more buildings made for me, hopefully, for the Cork build, and that would be awesome. But yeah, a lot of the time you have to compromise and just put something that just looks similar, or the right size and the right feel. But we're very lucky to have such a huge community and so many assets that I was actually to find most of the times a very good equivalent of the real life building. Yeah.
Are there any parts of the city you feel you want to go back on completion to tidy up or change a little bit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. One thing actually, because this is taking me so long, this project, I actually started building this thing sometime at the beginning of this year, so it's been probably like 10 months or something like that, although I've taken some breaks. But what I mean is that sometimes I've gone back to areas that I even forgot that I had done. So it kind of, you go back and they're like, oh, this is nice, and then you go back and no, this is not so nice. Especially over a period of 10 months, I'd say, like, my skills in general with the game and with doing this kind of build, I got much better, I think. So areas that I did 6 months ago, if I look at them now, I'll go like, no, I have better assets now, or I could do it differently, I could do it better. So absolutely. On the other hand, I don't want to go crazy and keep changing everything all the time, because then I will never finish it, and it's a very big project. But yeah, as I said, I'll be chaotic. When I open the game, I don't usually know what I'm going to do. I kind of just, sometimes I go like, okay, I really want to work in this area, that's what I'm going to do today, and that's it. But a lot of times I just open the map, something grabs my attention, and I get stuck in that area for like an hour, and then like, oops, that's not what I was planning to do at all. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. When you set the simulation loose, does the city actually work?
Yeah, it kind of does. Well, I think the first thing to say is that I do use the no problem mod, so I don't really know what's going on. Like, I only make sure that there's enough electricity and water in the city. I don't know, in my head people seem pretty happy, I would say. People go up and about, the cars going up and down, people are moving into the houses. So, well, the simulation sort of does, but I'm sure if I turn the no problem mode off, there's gonna be a huge amount of icons and things going wrong and all that. I hope, or I plan that once I'm kind of finished with the build, to pay a bit of attention at the simulation, maybe improve it a little bit, but it wasn't never the plan.
I think the big question is, what's the traffic like?
Better than in real life, anyway. Yeah, we get pretty bad traffic in the city center around all the bridges and all those. They create a lot of traffic jams, and the flow of the traffic is pretty. I mean, it resembles the real traffic in terms of directions and all that, but I don't think there is anywhere the amount of cars that you will need to have the proper traffic jams that we have here. But it's getting there.
Cool. Right, finally, are there any members of the Skylines community you'd like to see appear on the show?
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many great members of the community. I'd say for their assets creation, I would like to see in the show Armesto and Sven, who's been, very, very helpful with things. Sven Berling, I think they're great members of the community.
Indeed.
For the maps, I would actually like to hear from Ekania Dula.
Oh, yes.
Putting absolutely amazing, beautiful screenshots of maps. Yeah, I think. Oh, and of course, if you ever get hold of Bloody Penguin, that would be an absolutely, legendary moment. I know everybody's been asking for it, but that we'll have to put the name out there.
I'm sure we'll pin him down one day.
Yeah, good luck with it.
Right. Well, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have many more years of enjoyable city building.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me again. It's been great chatting to you, and yeah, I'm sure we'll see you around, in the city building and community.